Hello friends, I am glad to see you again. Today I will talk about the homeowners association that doesn't understand why I am moving into this house. You probably think your worst moving day nightmare is dropping the TV down the stairs or discovering the previous owners left the fridge full of mystery leftovers. That was my assumption too. Right up until a homeowners association president dialed 911 on me because, in her words, that man does not own this property. I wish I were exaggerating. What should have been a Saturday morning filled with bubble wrap pops and pizza boxes turned into a showdown featuring squad cars, frantic neighbors, and a crash course in property law, all before lunch. My name's Jace. I'm a 33-year-old software architect who saves every receipt, color codes, moving labels, and can quote most of the county zoning ordinances from memory. Long story involving an ill-fated shed project at my last place. 2 months earlier, I'd closed on a tidy split level in a quiet development that sat just outside the city limits. The neighborhood, Plum Blossom Estates, came with the usual perks: tree-lined sidewalks, a community pool, and a homeowners association so confident in its own authority that the board members practically marched in formation. Still, the house checked every box on my list. Solid bones, commutable location, and a garage wide enough for both my old '68 Mustang project car and a workbench. I signed, wired the down payment, and set the closing appointment faster than you can say. Where do I initial? The closing itself went off without a hitch. Title search, notarized signatures, all of it. But the HOA rep never showed. I later learned the board's secretary, a woman named Gretchen, couldn't get away from Pilates. The association bylaws did ask new owners to introduce themselves at the monthly meeting, but there was nothing in my purchase contract stating the board had to bless the sale. My realtor shrugged, I shrugged, and the county recorder's office stamped my deed a week later. Done deal, or so I thought. Fast forward to moving day, 8:02 a.m. sharp. My buddy Rowan and I rolled up in the rented box truck, windows rattling with our shared playlist of 90s alt-rock. The neighborhood was already humming with lawn mowers and dog walkers. A lanky man in neon joggers offered a nod as he ran past. Someone else waved from behind the wheel of a golf cart tricked out with chrome hubcaps. A normal Saturday morning, until a black Escalade glided to a stop behind our truck and outstepped Marvel, the HOA president herself. Picture a woman who could silence a middle school cafeteria with a single shush. Marvel wore a salmon pink blazer despite the humidity and carried a leather portfolio like it contained nuclear launch codes. She closed the Escalade's door with the softest click imaginable, glared at Rowan perched in the truck cab, then fixed those eyes on me. "Excuse me," she called, voice syrupy sweet. "Whose belongings are you delivering?" Rowan hopped down from the cab, arms cradling a box labeled Kitchen Fragile. "His," he said, jerking a thumb my way. "Owner, renter, overlord, take your pick." I extended a hand. "Morning, I'm Jace, new neighbor in lot 34. Marvel glanced at my hand like it was a stray leaf, then returned to her portfolio. "I'm President Marvel of the Plum Blossom Estates Homeowners Association. There must be a misunderstanding. Lot 34 is unoccupied." She tapped her manicured nail on a document I couldn't quite see. "Our records show the previous owner withdrew their listing before closing." My stomach did a little flip, but I kept my tone light. "I have a deed from the county dated 6 weeks ago. Maybe your files are out of sync?" Her smile tightened. "We administer quarterly inspections. Our last one was last month. No sale had occurred." Rowan muttered, "Well, the house didn't teleport here." I motioned him toward the garage. "Let's start unloading. We'll sort this out." Marvel stepped sideways, blocking the path with surprising agility. "I can't allow unauthorized occupancy. I'll need proof of ownership today, or you'll have to vacate until we verify." It dawned on me that the portfolio probably contained HOA covenants, not legal title records. Still, I pulled out my phone, ready to show her the PDF copy of my recorded warranty deed. But before I could unlock the screen, a second SUV pulled up. This one navy blue with HOA Magnetic Patrol stenciled on the side. Out climbed Gretchen, Pilates skipper turned secretary, plus 2 board members I'd never met. Great, an audience. "Marvel, do you need assistance?" Gretchen asked, voice pitched for drama. "That moving truck is blocking the street." Rowan shot me a look. Are these people for real? I'd read enough online horror stories to know power plays when I saw them. So I put on my best customer service smile and said, "Folks, I respect you're protecting the neighborhood, but I assure you I lawfully own this property. I have paperwork inside the cab. Let me access it." Marvel's expression hardened. "If you open that truck, you'll be trespassing." In front of my own house, I sputtered. We don't recognize your claim, she replied. Now, I'm usually conflict-averse, but something about having my legitimacy questioned in the driveway I just paid for flipped a switch. I said, fine, call the county clerk, call the title company. Heck, call the mayor, but meanwhile, we are unloading. Rowan dropped the box on the curb with theatrical care. Thud. That's when Marvel whipped out her phone and punched 3 digits I could see even from 10 feet away. 911. My jaw literally dropped. You can't be serious. She gave a curt nod. You leave me no choice. Seconds later, she was speaking to dispatch, voice suddenly trembling like a damsel in distress. Yes, operator, there are men attempting to break into a vacant property at Plum Blossom Estates. They're refusing to leave. I feel unsafe. She emphasized that last bit, eyes locked on mine. I mouthed, You feel unsafe? Rowan whispered, Should we stop? I shook my head. Keep unloading. I won't lie, adrenaline flooded my system. Every box felt like it weighed an extra 50 pounds. We'd gotten maybe 3 stacks onto the driveway before the first sheriff's cruiser rolled up, lights spinning but siren off. Deputy Mason climbed out, hand resting casually near his holster. I'd met sheriff's deputies before, school career day, speeding ticket once, but never under a false trespass accusation. He approached Marvel first. She launched into her version. Unknown men, forced entry, potential squatter situation. The words washed over me like icy water. Deputy Mason nodded, then turned to us. Morning, gentlemen. Mind telling me what's going on? I handed him my license. Absolutely, Deputy. I'm moving into my house. Here's my ID. Address matches the deed in the truck. Can I get it? He glanced at the boxes and at Rowan, who raised both palms in a universal not fighting gesture. Sure. Let's see the paperwork. Rowan fetched the bright orange folder my realtor had assembled. Certified deed, closing statement, and homeowner's insurance binder. Deputy Mason flipped through the documents, his brow smoothing. Everything here looks legit, he said. Then to Marvel, Ma'am, this deed was recorded by the county. Marvel's cheeks flushed. But our records, HOA records don't supersede county filings, he cut in gently. Is there some reason you believe the documents are fraudulent? She stammered about procedural irregularities. Gretchen stepped forward, offering a printed spreadsheet. Our database shows no change of title. We have a right to verify residency. Deputy Mason folded his arms. You have a right to request the homeowner's contact info, that's it. Calling 911 over a civil dispute is misuse of emergency services. He turned back to me. Mr. Jace, you're free to continue unloading. I'll file an incident report noting the false claim. Marvel's jaw dropped in slow motion. The deputy's next line was icing. Ma'am, you may also expect a bill from the county for the dispatch, depending on the prosecutor's decision. She sputtered, You can't bill me. I'm protecting community safety. He tipped his hat. Good day, folks. With that, the cruiser pulled off. It should have ended the drama. Instead, it became Act 1. Over the next hour, Rowan and I emptied half the truck. Neighbors drifted past with dishes of brownies and curious smiles. Apparently, the police lights had triggered the local grapevine. Each time someone welcomed us, Marvel lurked nearby, muttering about illegitimate occupancy. But she never stepped onto my property again. That deputy's warning must have made an impression. At 11:30, just as the last fragile box hit the living room floor, I heard heavy footsteps on the porch. I opened the door to find a certified mail courier holding an envelope marked Notice of Violation. It was from the HOA, naturally, citing me for engaging unregistered contractors, translation Rowan and me, and obstructing community thoroughfares with the moving truck. Rowan whistled low. They wasted zero time. I scanned the fine print, $250 fine payable within 10 days, or additional penalties would accrue. Then I laughed. A short, incredulous bark that bounced off the empty hallway. They're fining me for moving into my own house after calling the cops? Rowan shrugged. Some people collect stamps, some collect HOA fees. I tossed the notice onto a stack of bubble wrap. If the board wanted paperwork, they'd get paperwork. So much their printers would run dry. I already knew our state's HOA statute backwards. I fired up my laptop and drafted an appeal citing the state law that bars associations from fining owners for contractor registration if the owner personally performs the work. I attached copies of the deputy's incident report, he'd emailed it, and the moving truck rental agreement showing my name. I CC'd my real estate attorney, then hit send. That should have cooled things. Instead, it snowballed. Monday morning, 8:01 a.m., 2 days after the 911 call, a tow truck rumbled into my driveway. The driver, a burly guy named Kellen, told me he'd been hired by management to remove an abandoned vehicle. He pointed at the Mustang, my project car, legally titled and sporting fresh tags. "Who's management?" I asked, though I knew the answer. He handed me a tow order on HOA letterhead. Reason: non-functional eyesore. Never mind the car had passed emission inspection last month and the hood was closed. I noticed the signature line bore Gretchen's scrawl. Kellen looked uncomfortable. "I need proof it's yours and operational or I gotta hook it." Rowan, yes, he was back. I paid him in pizza and eternal gratitude, popped the hood, turned the key, and the V8 rumbled to life with a throaty growl. Kellen's eyebrows shot up. "She purrs fine to me." I produced the title. "Try moving it without probable cause and we'll have a conversion of property suit." He climbed back in his rig. "No thanks, I'll tell him you refused." He pulled away, leaving tire tracks like punctuation marks on Gretchen's overreach. But I wasn't letting it slide. I filed a police report for attempted theft and attached security camera footage. I'd installed a doorbell camera the day before. Once again, the deputies paid a visit to Marvel's Escalade. By now, I'd attracted allies. Mrs. Paloma, 2 doors down, confessed Marvel had fined her for unapproved garden gnomes. A retired Army captain across the street, Eugene, revealed he'd once been cited for hosting a barbecue, too aromatic for the neighborhood aesthetic. The stories piled up like sandbags. That Wednesday, the monthly HOA meeting convened in the community clubhouse. My appearance apparently shocked the board. New residents rarely showed up. I wore jeans and a polo, deed folded in my back pocket like a talisman. When the meeting opened to resident concerns, I raised my hand. "I'd like to address the pattern of selective enforcement against my property." Murmurs rippled around the room. Marvel attempted to gavel me quiet, but Robert's rules are clear. Once recognized, a speaker may finish. So I spoke. I laid out the timeline. False 911 call, bogus fine, attempted towing. I cited state statutes, municipality ordinances, even a federal court decision about due process in HOA fines. Then I dropped my ace. A pending complaint with the state's Department of Consumer Affairs, which oversees common interest communities. Copies of every document were passed around like popcorn. Marvel tried to respond with community standards, but couldn't refute the hard legal citations. Gretchen adjusted her Pilates headband and avoided eye contact. When the floor opened for discussion, residents came alive. Paloma recounted the gnome saga. Eugene shared the barbecue debacle. Someone else talked about being forced to repaint a door 3 times to match microscopic shade variations. A motion emerged from the crowd. Elect a special committee to audit the board's recent enforcement actions. According to the bylaws, a simple majority of homeowners present could pass such a motion. A quick count of hands showed overwhelming support. Only the board members voted no. Motion carried. Marvel looked ready to sprout steam. She adjourned abruptly, but damage done. The committee was official, and I, being fresh blood, was nominated chair. I won't pretend I didn't enjoy that moment. Next came discovery. Over 3 weeks, the committee requested records, citation logs, fine ledgers, email correspondence. Under state law, the HOA had 10 business days to comply. On day 9, we received a banker's box stuffed with stapled printouts. Rowan, my honorary secretary, and I scanned everything into searchable PDFs. We found patterns. Fines disproportionately targeted certain residents, mainly those who'd questioned dues increases over the past year. Meanwhile, favored households, including Marvel's niece, enjoyed landscaping violations being overlooked. We also uncovered a bombshell. The HOA had spent $12,600 on administrative consulting with a company registered to, wait for it, Marvel's sister-in-law. The invoice described strategic enforcement initiatives, translation, citations for cash. Equipped with evidence, I scheduled a special homeowners meeting. State law mandated 15-day notice. We tacked flyers on mailboxes and sent certified letters. Attendance the night of the meeting exceeded quorum by triple. Folding chairs spilled into the hallway. We presented the findings via projector, my software architect skills finally useful outside code. Lined spreadsheets illuminated every questionable fee, every conflict of interest. Gasps and low whistles filled the air. When I revealed the no-bid contract to Marvel's in-law, a collective groan swept the room. Someone called for a vote of no confidence in the current board. According to the bylaws, removal required 2/3 of all homeowners, not just attendees, a high bar, but anger, is a motivator. Homeowners who'd never touched HOA politics dragged spouses into the clubhouse to vote. Final tally: 67 in favor, 5 against, 6 abstaining. Two-thirds threshold passed. Just like that, Marvel, Gretchen, and the rest were ousted. An interim board was elected on the spot, with Eugene as president and, yes, yours truly as treasurer. Not power lust, I promise. I just wanted transparency over every penny. Punishment 1 delivered: loss of status and authority, arguably worse than any fine. But the story didn't end there. During the transition, we combed through bank statements and discovered the previous board had quietly raised dues without the required membership vote, funneling the extra cash into that sham consulting contract. The amount? Nearly $18,000. The interim board froze further expenditures and retained a forensic accountant. We then filed a civil suit to recover the misused funds personally from Marvel and her cohort, citing breach of fiduciary duty. Weeks later, county deputies served Marvel at her doorstep. Word spread faster than wildfire in dry season. She lawyered up, but evidence was ironclad. Facing hefty legal fees and potential punitive damages, she proposed a settlement: reimburse the HOA in full plus a public apology printed in the community newsletter. The board countered, demanding additional restitution equal to 15% of the diverted funds as community disruption damages. After 2 tense mediations, she agreed. Punishment 2, writing a check so large it required a cashier's draft, plus signing a notarized apology that residents framed and hung in the clubhouse foyer. As for Gretchen, our attorney discovered she'd facilitated the bogus tow order by forging the property description on the towing form, a misdemeanor in our state. The new board voted to forward the evidence to the district attorney. In exchange for an early plea, Gretchen paid a fine and performed 50 hours of community service, mostly repainting the very curbs she once policed. Punishment 3, sweat equity under summer sun, supervised by neighbors she'd hassled. Through it all, I kept a running log, documenting every email, phone call, deposit, and disbursement. Transparency became the new norm. We posted minutes online and streamed meetings for snowbirds. Dues stabilized, property values ticked upward, and the air at Plum Blossom Estates shifted from suspicious to neighborly. By autumn, my Mustang purred down freshly repaved streets paid for by reclaimed funds. Rowan and I toasted with root beer bottles on my finished deck. He joked, "You came for a quiet suburb and sparked a revolution." "Revolution's a big word," I said, clinking his bottle. "I just wanted to move into my house." He gestured at the peaceful cul-de-sac, children chalk-drawing smiley suns on driveways. "Mission accomplished, pal." Yet one plot thread remained untied: the phony violation fine they'd slapped on me day 1. Even though the old board was gone, the fee still lingered in the system. I asked the interim board to erase it, but Eugene suggested something better. At the December holiday party before the raffle drawing, he called me up front. "We have a special motion," he said, winking. "In recognition of Jace's contributions, we propose converting his $250 fine into a credit toward next year's dues, and matching it from recovered funds to compose a first-year scholarship for a community member's kid heading to trade school." The motion passed unanimously, with applause loud enough to rattle ornaments. Punishment 4, turning a bogus fine into opportunity for someone else. That's how a stolen Saturday morning blossomed into a neighborhood renaissance. If you drive through Plum Blossom Estates today, you won't see Escalades staking out driveways. You'll see planters bursting with petunias, front porch guitars on summer nights, maybe even an approved garden gnome or two. And you'll see a blue '68 Mustang parked in the driveway of Lot 34, its owner finally at home. January blew in with sleet that rattled the new double-pane windows I'd splurged on during the board shakeup, and I naively assumed the weather would freeze whatever drama still lingered. Turns out, spite has a remarkably low freezing point. I first realized we weren't done when a letter arrived from an unfamiliar law firm claiming I'd defamed Marvel and Gretchen by publicly maligning their service records. The demand: issue a written apology in the next 10 days or face a 6-figure lawsuit. I stared at the thick stationery, then laughed so hard I fogged up my glasses. Nothing says mea culpa like a certified threat delivered from a pricey downtown address paid for with, presumably, the same cash we'd forced them to return. Still, I forwarded the letter to my own attorney, Mara Fallon, a no-nonsense litigator who had formerly run the Consumer Protection Division at the state AG's office. She skimmed the document, chuckled, and said, "They wrote a libel 3 times. This is spoken speech. That's slander." They can't even pick the right tort. She drafted a politely blistering reply pointing out every deficiency and attaching the deputy's incident report plus the forensic accountant's findings. Her closing line read, "Should your clients pursue further action, we will counterclaim for malicious prosecution and seek attorney's fees." We heard nothing back. That minor salvo could have ended the nonsense, except spite rarely travels alone. 2 weeks later, I opened my mailbox to find a county clerk postcard. Notice of Mechanics Lien, $7,430. The claimant? A shell entity called Neighborhood Enforcement Solutions, listing Gretchen as registered agent. The lien citation alleged unpaid security services rendered to my property since the day I moved in. Rowan happened to be visiting, lugging in a case of sparkling water when I muttered, "You've got to be kidding." He scanned the postcard. They're throwing paper spaghetti at every wall, hoping something sticks. Under state statute, filing a fraudulent lien is a Class D felony if done knowingly. Mara drafted another letter, less polite this time, demanding immediate release of the lien and threatening a criminal complaint. We concurrently emailed the county recorder's fraud division. Within 48 hours, Deputy Landry, a tall officer with a grin that suggested he'd rather be fishing, rang Marvel's doorbell. She surrendered a notarized release faster than a cat drops a hot potato. A week later, Deputy Landry called me. "Funny thing," he said. "The shell company filed 6 more liens. Same handwriting, different neighbors, all new board members. He asked if we'd share our security footage from the day the paperwork appeared in our mailboxes. We gladly obliged. Cameras had captured Gretchen's minivan circling the block at 2 a.m., stopping at every targeted address. You could practically see her printing press humming in the passenger seat. The district attorney bundled the evidence into a tidy probable cause packet. An indictment would take months, but Gretchen's lawyer soon negotiated a plea: 1 year probation, another round of community service, plus mandatory attendance at an ethics seminar. When reporters from the local independent weekly showed up, Gretchen tried to shield her face with a Pilates mat. The photo still made the front page. Spring arrived bringing tulips, a fresh coat of optimism, and an unwelcome certified envelope addressed to HOA treasurer, me. Inside was a renewal contract from Cedar Crest Management, the property management firm that the prior board had hired without bidding to handle administrative consulting. Same company we'd flushed out as Marvel's sister-in-law's side hustle. The accompanying cover note, clearly a form letter, congratulated us on another successful year of partnership and announced an automatic renewal clause unless we objected within 30 calendar days. I dug through last year's invoices and found the clause. Cedar Crest could unilaterally extend the term if no board member gave written notice, under the previous board's signature. Sneaky, but not illegal. We had 29 days to act. I called an emergency board session at Eugene's house. 6 of us crammed around his oversized dining table while his beagle snored underfoot. We voted unanimously to reject renewal and drafted a termination letter. Mara reviewed it for ironclad compliance. I hand-delivered the envelope to Cedar Crest's downtown office, recorded the interaction on my phone, and got a time-stamped receipt. 2 days later, a woman I recognized from old meeting minutes, Marvel's sister-in-law, Clarice, stormed into our scheduled open board meeting. Wearing a blazer the color of wet cement, she demanded we honor the continuity clause. Eugene calmly pointed to the recorded termination. Clarice argued the clause required reasonable compensation for early cancellation, namely 8 months of fees up front. Translation: pay us to stop scamming you. Our attorney, waiting quietly in the corner, slid her a copy of State Statute Section 4517B. Management companies serving common interest communities owe fiduciary duty and cannot rely on contracts secured through conflict of interest. Clarice paled, tucked the contract into her briefcase, and left without another word. 3 days after that, Cedar Crest dissolved itself as a legal entity. Mara later mused they'd rather fold than expose their books. While legal brushfires smoldered, the new board leaned into actual community building. We launched an online portal so neighbors could download bylaws, pay dues, and report maintenance issues without middlemen. Eugene organized a curb appeal contest judged by local landscapers who donated free design consultations as prizes. I coded a simple mobile app that sent push alerts about pool hours and trash pickup changes. For once, people stopped avoiding board emails. During one of our sidewalk socials, a rebranded block party, Paloma pulled me aside. "You planning more surprises?" she teased. I shrugged. Only the kind that involve food trucks and zero lawsuits. I didn't mention the lingering knot in my stomach that kept me wary. When you've had 911 weaponized against you on moving day, you learn vigilance. Sure enough, round 3 arrived in the form of a late-night phone call from a journalist named Sawyer Mercer. He'd been digging through property record data for an unrelated investigation and noticed a curious pattern. 3 neighborhoods in the county had experienced a flurry of fraudulent liens, 911 squatter calls, and sudden vendor contracts. All 3 HOAs had loosely connected board members, cousins, college roommates, Pilates buddies. He asked if I'd be willing to go on record. I hesitated. My life had already turned into a mini-series, but Sawyer possessed documents that widened the lens. A spreadsheet showing Cedar Crest's bank account routing numbers matching payments from 2 other associations. He suspected a coordinated grift, inflate fines, intimidate homeowners, funnel dues through consulting entities, then cash out before anyone noticed. I agreed to an interview, provided he omit the neighborhood name to protect innocent residents. Instead, he'd refer to us as a suburban HOA in the western part of the state. I supplied redacted copies of every document I'd amassed. 911 logs, towing order, forensic reports, lien releases, Clarice's terminated contract. Sawyer spent 6 weeks fact-checking. His story dropped on a Tuesday morning beneath the headline, "The Fine Print: How Many Fiefdoms Use HOA Power to Bully Homeowners." It lit up social media like a pinball machine. County commissioners launched a task force, and the State Consumer Protection Bureau revived old HOA complaints. By July, a bipartisan Homeowner Due Process Act hit the legislature. Stricter notice rules, caps on emergency fines, penalties for fake liens. I testified, describing an Escalade blocking my driveway while a stranger called 911 to claim I didn't own my house. Heads shook. Pens flew. The Capitol lobby that day buzzed like a beehive. Reporters, lobbyists, off-duty firefighters in union t-shirts. When cameras swung my way, I wanted to duck, but a retired librarian whispered, "Give 'em what for, son," and that carried me through the red blinking microphone. The bill passed, House 92-3, Senate unanimous, and the governor signed it on live TV, praising citizens who turned harassment into reform. I hoped that was my last headline. It wasn't. Marvel tried to gag Sawyer's newspaper with an injunction. A judge swatted it away in 10 minutes. Rumor said she mortgaged her house for legal fees. Soon, Detective Landry phoned. A grand jury had indicted her for false instruments and 911 abuse. I reread my statement, ironed a shirt, and headed to court. The room was small, floors creaky. Marvel sat rigid. Gretchen, on probation, clutched a glittery water bottle. Prosecutors mapped the scheme, ignoring a recorded deed, weaponizing 911, filing liens, steering dues to a sister-in-law. Body cam footage showed Deputy Mason explaining that county records trump HOA spreadsheets. My doorbell clip caught Gretchen's 2 a.m. mailbox tour. Emails bragging about pressure tactics sealed intent. The defense played the clueless volunteer card. I told jurors I'd felt like a stranger in the house I'd just bought. 6 hours later, guilty on both felonies, guilty on 911 misuse. Judge Holbrook later gave 6 months house arrest, 200 hours at legal aid, restitution for every wasted dispatch, and a yard sign reading, "Under court-ordered house arrest for HOA misconduct," in 3-inch letters. Holbrook's reasoning was simple, almost parental. Sunlight is an excellent disinfectant. Let the community see the cost of misconduct. Reporters nearly tripped over themselves jotting that down. The sheriff delivered the sign next morning and stood by while Marvel hammered it into her own lawn. Each thud echoed like a drumbeat of accountability. No appeal followed. Neighbors snapped selfies, teens filmed dance videos. Marvel hid behind curtains. Gretchen sold her place below, asking, ad-boasting HOA under fresh leadership. With the bullies gone, the neighborhood bloomed. We held a summer carnival for the county animal shelter, Gretchen's assigned work. She silently bagged popcorn in an orange vest. Nobody jeered. Rowan ran the dunk tank. Every splash sent cheers bouncing off garage doors and coaxed wallet after wallet from pockets. Even Deputy Mason stopped by on patrol, dunked Rowan on his first throw, and earned a roar that rattled the cotton candy machine. Recovered funds created a scholarship honoring Eugene's late wife. The first winner, Tessa, a shy senior heading to vet tech school, received a check that made her mom cry. I marveled that a street once sour with suspicion now buzzed with laughter and the rumble of my Mustang giving $5 rides. We pulled in $1,800 in half an hour. Rowan proposed auctioning the Mustang for more scholarships. I balked, but the idea stuck. In October, under string lights, a retired firefighter bought it for $28,000. Thrilled it would fund trade school dreams. Handing over the keys felt freeing, not sad. Eugene clinked my root beer bottle. First a revolution, now a legacy. Filing the title transfer, I found my original $250 violation notice and framed it. The day everything changed. December snow felt like frosting on a repaired cake. I strung lights. Paloma adjusted porch bows. Eugene placed luminaries. No Escalades, no clipboards, just neighbors under cold, glittering stars. The new statute, Section 23C, now forces HOAs to prove violations and allow 10 days to fix them. It exists because power-drunk board members dialed 911 on a man unpacking boxes. People call homeownership the American dream. I think the dream is feeling safe where you live. If someone tries to crown themselves in your driveway, document everything, rally allies, and turn their bylaws against them. I plugged in the last strand. Lights glowed steady, painting warm halos on fresh snow. Silence, save for distant holiday music. Had you told me my sweetest victory would involve yard signs and depositions, I'd have laughed. But ordinary neighbors, armed with law and persistence, really can outshine intimidation. My phone buzzed. Rowan's photo showed a cherry red '72 Bronco. "Swing by this weekend," he wrote. "We'll bolt on the grill and christen it with pizza grease." "Deal," I typed. "Your treat. My dues credits gone." I pocketed the phone, breathed crisp air, and smiled. At last, this place felt like home. Friends, thank you. See you soon.